Happy to see all of you tonight. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in what's going on. This is an important race. But before we get started, I want to take just a second to honor and recognize what we're going through right now, whether it is the Uvalde report that came out, that it has opened up that wound again, or the ongoing border crisis, where lives are being lost, or the horrific loss of life in Gaza and Israel. There's so many things around the world and here at home that are just heavy on our minds, heavy on our hearts. And I think it takes up the temperature between people that have the same goals and same ideals. And we sometimes might forget that we're really working toward the same thing. So I just want to take just a moment to have a moment of silence about all the things that we have on our minds and hearts, and just honor that. Thank you. Welcome. And thank you for coming tonight. Thank you to the candidates for agreeing to this, and to our moderator, all the people that have helped us get this thing together. We're here because the candidates, these leading candidates, need to have a substantive conversation in front of us. We need to be able to have an ear to how they actually compare, contrast, what's similar, and just see who it is that we actually support. Because of gerrymandering, we are pretty much drawn into, in this district for sure, a Democrat is going to represent us. So this primary that, of course, you know, takes place on March 5th, is pretty much where we're going to elect our next congressional leader. So it's super important that we get informed and let other people know how important it is that they vote in the primary. I didn't bring cheat sheets. I want to acknowledge the co-sponsors tonight. We had several organizations and clubs that helped us out by promoting, by helping out in other ways. We had Progress Texas, who you might have seen out in the lobby. They did great work. Thank you, Kathleen. The Lake Highlands White Rock Democrats Club also promoted that. The Plano Area Democrats Club, I don't know where's Rob? Thank you. And Stonewall Democrats, also. Stonewall Democrats promoted this for us. And Preston Hollow Democrats also pushed it out for us. And I want to give a special thanks to the Democrats at UTD who helped us get to this place. Thank you so much for all your help. Thank you. I'm Jenny Laughlin. I'm the president of Richardson Area Democrats. I want to acknowledge that we have 3 people here tonight from our city council, and I want to give a shout out. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but our city council will show up. They are so involved in our community, and we really appreciate you guys being here and supporting this, being with the people, and thank you so much. So tonight we have Mayor Pro Tem Arifin Shamsul, Councilman Joe Corcoran, and Councilman Dan Barrios. And I'm being told that there's somebody else over here. Oh, Mihaela. Mihaela got here. This is Representative Mihaela Plisa. She's in House District 70. Thank you for coming. And I think that's all of the people I had to introduce, all of the clubs I had to introduce, and tonight we're here to hear the candidates. They're going to have a conversation, we're going to have great questions for them, and they get to discuss these questions. What we would ask from you, because we have a lot of ground to cover, is that you please hold your applause, hold your comments, positive or negative, and be sure to just give them the respect of being able to talk. We want to get all the questions in. Also paying respect to our moderator and to the other attendees who have come and taken time out of their lives to be here tonight. So we ask you to please, no applause, no comments. We're gonna have to just keep it moving along, and we do appreciate you. Want to let you know this too, that we are going to try and end by 8:30 or so, and the candidates will all be available to meet and greet after that. So if there's anything that you didn't get answered, that you had on your mind that you wanted to hear, or if you wanted to follow up on anything that they talked about, you'll have that opportunity after the debate is ended. And I'm probably forgetting something, but the phones, that's why people are raising their hand. Would you please silence your phones? If you will make sure, and I'm also going to do that so that my alarm does not go off at 7:30. Thank you for reminding me. And with that, I'm going to give it to the much more eloquent Derek Gay. He is our board member and candidate liaison. He has been the one that put these questions together, has coordinated with the candidates, and it's been a real honor working with you on this. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know that I'm much more eloquent, but thank you for that, the kind words, Jenny. So thank you all for coming. We have what we think is really going to be a very substantive debate with a lot of back and forth, and we're going to cover a lot of areas. So as Jenny mentioned, please hold applause, and you will have that time at the end to mingle with the candidates and ask what, if there's any issue we didn't address that, is really burning in your mind, you'll have that opportunity at the end there. The rules of the debate, we've drawn straws to see who goes first, and how it will sort of proceed is that the first person will get the question. They'll have 2 minutes to respond. We have a countdown here that the candidates can see right up front. And then after that, each of the other 3 remaining candidates will have 1 minute to either rebut or add on to that point. So there's 7 questions in total that are sort of the meatier questions, and we envision a very vigorous debate on those. We also have rapid fire questions. So that's, throwing out a quick question, sort of break up the flow a bit, and there'll be 2 sets of 3 questions each, where it's 10 seconds or less. Do you support this? Yes or no type of type of questions there. So those are the two questions we'll see. But it's also my distinct honor to be able to introduce Mr. Gromer Jeffers from the Dallas Morning News as our moderator. Politics, county, Richardson politics, you know who this man is. So just really thankful to have him here and to be able to moderate this. So really excited to have you, sir.
Thank you, Richardson. Wow. I was telling Constable Curry here, I love it out here. Usually when I'm out here, though, it's at one of your great restaurants, eating something, and but it's good to be here. And I just want you guys to know you are the stars of this show. And if you, in our democracy, as you know, if you want change, you have to participate. And participation starts at attending events like this, being active, and then at the end of the process, voting. And so give yourself a hand for that and for being here. Again, happy to do this. I hope you enjoy the show. And don't forget, check me and my partner Phil Praisen out Sundays at 8:30 a.m. NBC5 Lone Star Politics. And I'll say hello to you from there. But now let's bring out the candidates and get this show started. All right, so our candidates are civil rights lawyer and former prosecutor Justin Moore. Who do we have next? I can't see. Was that State Representative Julie Johnson? And next we have Dallas trauma surgeon Brian Williams. And Dallas lawyer Callie Butcher is here. All right. So we drew straws, right? Derek and Justin was the lucky person.
I was the lucky person.
Is the lucky person. Now, question one. So let's get started. Let's start with immigration. The topic of immigration has dominated the headlines and projects to be the top issue in the general election. As you know, the town of Eagle Pass is the busiest sector for illegal crossings. And on Friday night, a woman and 2 children drowned at Eagle Pass after U.S. border agents were prevented from entering the area by the Texas National Guard troops under the direction of Governor Greg Abbott. As the federal government and the Texas government continue to clash on immigration, Congress has failed to pass any meaningful immigration reform for more than 2 decades. We're going to start with you, Justin. In Congress, Mr. Moore, what immigration reform would you support?
So I want to start by saying what we're doing at the border is a damn shame. It's a humanitarian crisis, and as a country, we should be ashamed of ourselves. The most powerful country in the world should know how to not only protect our border, but make sure we protect folks that are trying to cross into this country. We are a nation of immigrants, but we can't be selective about which immigrants we allow into this country safely. We need to create an immigration system that is equitable and based in humanity. We need to create pathways to citizenship. We need to allow dreamers that are already here the ability to stay here because they have provided so much value to this country since they have been in this country. We also have a host of undocumented immigrants that are already here that have been contributing to our economy. But they live in fear each and every day of being sent back home. What are we going to do about this? Now, in U.S. Congress, I'm going to use my ability to build coalitions, which I've been doing for the past decade. I'm going to use my ability to build coalitions to allow us to create legislation, because it's going to have to work across the aisle. We're going to have to build these coalitions to create legislation to ensure that folks that want to get here, that are leaving some of the more damning areas in the world, that are rife with conflict, we give them safe passage to this country. Because what America should be, it should be a safe harbor. We talk about safe places and safe spaces. America needs to be a safe space for those that need to find them. So as your next U.S. Congressperson, I'm going to ensure that we work on legislation that's going to solve this problem. Because the most powerful country in the world should not be a destination where folks have to risk their lives to get to. And as us as Congress folks, or as people that are running for Congress, if this isn't one of the most prevalent, most important issues in our policy platform, then we don't deserve to get your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Moore. Representative Johnson.
I totally agree. You know, I think with respect to the answer of your question, we need to increase funding. Right now, our funding is only at $87 million, and which is only less than a tenth of what we need in order to adequately fund staff, court personnel, to be able to timely process all the applications that we have. That's one of the reasons we have decades of backlog that is not being cleared. We need fair, fast, and final in terms of our process. Our DACA folks need to have legal status. We need to have a comprehensive immigration reform. It has been multiple presidential administrations that have passed the buck on getting final immigration done. And it's going to take leadership from the state of Texas. It's at our border. I have been to the border. I have been down there. I have met with law enforcement. I have met with families. It is a crisis that is of urgency for our state and our state security.
Thank you. Dr. Williams.
Absolutely, I support comprehensive immigration reform. And that will include work between the federal government and the state of Texas. You know, we need to provide a pathway to citizenship. We need to secure our borders, and we need to support our DACA. The kids that have been here know no other country than America. And we can do this. We can secure the border and show our humanity to those people that are here and not compromise on each of those. And I tell you, as a doctor, I've chosen to work at safety net hospitals. Many of my patients are immigrants or the child of immigrants. I've had people come into me with late-stage cancers and untreatable diseases, and their kids are translating for me and telling me that they were scared to come in because they were afraid they would get deported and that their doctors might report them. This is the reality I see in my job, and as a member of Congress, I will do what we can to secure the border, provide a pathway to citizenship, and respect our values as Americans and respect the shared humanity of all of those who come here.
Thank you. Attorney Butcher.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been set up here. I mean, I think first and foremost, these are people. They're coming here and they are risking their lives to get here. They want to be in this country. They need to be in this country in a lot of cases to escape the violence that they have in their home country. And we don't, fix this problem by making it physically more difficult for them to get into our country, as others, in another party might suggest. What we need to do is make the asylum process smoother, quicker, faster. That requires funding. I've represented asylum seekers throughout my career, and I've had numerous clients who've had more than 4, going on 10 years to get their asylum process. And that is outrageous, and it's something we really need to fix. And the other thing I'd say we have to fix quickly is how long it takes to get work authorization permits. Right now, it takes 6 months. It needs to be faster. These people want to contribute. They want to self-support, and we need to provide that for them.
All right, thank you. And just as a quick follow-up, and answer this as quickly as you can. We've mentioned how long it's taken and the inaction on this issue, immigration, border security to some degree. Bipartisanship is a nice word, but it hasn't worked yet on this issue. So is it a reality? Can you work across the aisle to get something done?
I believe you can work across the aisle to get something done, but that's why it takes someone that knows how to build coalitions. See, I built coalitions across the aisle as a private citizen. So I worked on the First Step Act, which was the most comprehensive, wide-sweeping criminal justice reform legislation that this country has seen in the past 20 years. And I actually did that in the Trump administration. I actually went to the Oval Office, sat across from that orange-faced villain and dared him to sign the First Step Act into law, which freed thousands upon thousands of federal inmates. See, we look at federal inmates like they're less than human, and I think there's some folks in this country that look at immigrants like they're less than human. That's why we allowed 3 people to die at the border on Friday. A mother and her 2 babies. They were viewed as less than human. I know how to build coalitions to show the humanity in folks, and I believe when I'm in Congress, I'll be able to do that as a congressperson.
Representative, how do you bust through the gridlock?
Well, I think bipartisanship is important, but we also have to look at where Republicans are. I have been in the legislature. I'm the only one in this body that has any legislative experience. I have seen Greg Abbott eyeball to eyeball, and the hate that he has towards our border, the hate that he has towards our immigrants, and the hate that he has towards this whole process. Republicans like to go down to the border and grandstand and use this as punching bags, but they have absolutely no desire to actually pass any comprehensive immigration reform at all. They're using this as an election tool to embed fear in people, to make them want to vote more Republican and fear immigrants. Look at Trump. He said 70% of people fear that immigrants are going to contaminate the blood of this country. That kind of rhetoric and that kind of hate from the top leadership of the Republican Party does not yield to bipartisanship. And unfortunately, on this issue, Democrats just need to win some elections. I have worked with Republicans many, many times. I have passed hundreds of bills in the legislature and in a bipartisan fashion, but unfortunately, Republicans don't have a desire to lead on this issue. Democrats do.
All right, Dr. Williams.
I'm a proud graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. Military veteran, son of a veteran, we learn to work with each other. Party does not matter, you get the mission done. As a trauma surgeon, saving lives, if someone comes into the OR, the ER, I should say, with a gunshot wound to the chest and they're in traumatic arrest, I don't stand at the door and say, only Democrats can come in and save this patient's life. We got to come in there and work together to save lives. Right now, the country is the critical patient, right? We need to come together to address issues like the epidemic of gun violence. Republicans rolling back abortion rights, lower healthcare costs, and defend our democracy at a time when people are trying to dismantle it. If you believe in the greatness of America as I do, we will come together and preserve our democracy and create the world that we all deserve. It is about preserving our democracy for future generations. I'm looking at my daughter here and smiling because I'm doing this for you and your friends.
Yeah, I think, bipartisanship, incredibly important. I think, in just my life experience, right? I walk into rooms every day where often I'm the first trans person someone's met. They often have preconceived notions about what that means. They may think negative things about me. I often have to approach them with an understanding of where their biases come from and work towards them understanding that I am a person just like them, living a life and wanting to succeed in my life. I think there is room on a lot of issues in Congress to do the same thing. One-on-one, face-to-face discussions with people to really understand where we meet and where we differ and why those differences are occurring. Unfortunately, I think on this issue, I have to agree. I think the Republicans have told us straight up they're not planning to pass immigration reform unless there's another president in the White House, and we can't let that happen. So on this issue, I think, we just need to push forwards.
Thank you. This next question will start with you, Representative Johnson. President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war has been criticized by some within the Democratic Party. And as you know, Sunday marked 100 days since the Hamas attacks on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza. Do you support President Biden's handling of the crisis in the Middle East? And would you call for a ceasefire?
I think what is happening in Gaza is a humanitarian crisis and a catastrophe. What happened on the attacks on Israel on October 7th were also a catastrophe. And I really supported the ceasefire efforts for all the humanitarian cause. I think that's very, very important. I would like to see that resume. I would like to see the hostages released. We have lost the path on hostage release. There are Palestinians being wrongfully held. There are Israelis being wrongfully held. They need to be returned to their families, and there's no movement on that. The crisis right now, we have hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza who are starving, who don't have food, who don't have medicine. I was really pleased to see that the French and the Qatar communities have negotiated an ability to get medicine in. I think that's very critically important. But we also need to have a final resolution of this conflict. We need to know, what is the end game? Is Gaza going to be able to have self-determination? Who is going to lead? Is it Hamas? They're a terrorist organization. They cannot remain in power. When there's a ceasefire, is it the Palestinian Authority? Are they going to take over? And then Iran's role in this is outrageous. They're supporting Hamas. They're supporting the Houthi rebels. They're supporting Hezbollah. They are trying to create chaos in this regime and in this part of the country that needs to be stopped. I would love to see a ceasefire. I would love that. We have to have compassion for all people. Israel must be able to defend itself. Hamas has to go.
All right, what do you think about President Biden's handling of this situation so far?
I think it could have been stronger. You know, I think the U.S. needs to have leadership. Thousands of people are dying. Thousands of children are starving. I'm glad to see Secretary Blinken over there. I'm happy to see them, renewing talks, renewing efforts. But the U.S. is a superpower, and we need to be a superpower, and we need to lead more forcefully on this issue.
Thank you. Dr. Williams, same question.
My heart goes out to everyone who's been impacted by this war in Gaza. As a veteran, I took an oath to serve, and I respect Israel's right to defend themselves after this atrocious attack by Hamas terrorists. As a doctor, I can't envision what it's like for Palestinian doctors right now trying to provide care to these patients and trying to save lives under these conditions. So I support anything we can do to end this humanitarian crisis. I support what the Biden administration has done so far to try to bring this war to a rapid end, but it needs to come to an end so we can get towards peace in the region, and that cannot happen until Hamas lays down their weapons, stops the hostilities, and releases the hostages. Then we can continue this path towards peace and work towards a two-state solution.
Okay. Attorney, what?
I do not support President Biden's approach to Israel-Hamas. I think it is, look, my kids go to a Jewish school. I'm heavily involved in the Jewish community here. I grieved for my Jewish neighbors on October 7th. But what we are seeing in Gaza, 24,000 Palestinians dead, more than 10,000 of those children. This is well beyond self-defense. This is a problem. It is funded by the U.S., and we can no longer provide unconditional support to a regime that shows no sign of protecting civilian life. And I think that's all that has to be said.
Wait, I know this is an emotional issue, but when you cheer like that, it cuts into the candidate's time, so please.
Ceasefire now.
All right. Attorney Moore.
Unequivocally, I don't support the Biden administration, and I don't support the last 5 presidents that have been giving unconditional aid to Israel. So let's be clear here. Hamas needs to be dealt with, but in return, Israel should not be committing a genocide against Palestinian people in Gaza right now, and that's what's going on. Every major international humanitarian organization has said that this is a genocide, and we are refusing to treat it as such. That is a huge problem. Senator Bernie Sanders just tried to pass a resolution in the Senate, which got voted down, right? That's a huge problem. The UN keeps on trying to have these resolutions passed, and the U.S. keeps on abstaining or voting against these resolutions. That's a problem. We can't be complicit in the death of thousands upon thousands of Palestinians. And now we can talk about the occupation as well. Yes, we do need to condemn Hamas, but we also need to understand the drivers for radicalism. Mass oppression creates radical responses. Now, we want a Gaza and an Israel that's going to exist into the future, but we need to sit and talk about what Zionism really breeds. The Zionism that's over there right now can be akin to white nationalism here. And we try to root out white nationalism in our policies here. We need to try and root out Zionism and the policies that oppress Palestinians there. That's the only way both sides could have a peaceful future where lives aren't needlessly lost moving forward.
All right, thank you, Attorney Moore. That's your time. right now, we're going to have our first 3 rapid-fire questions. So Dr. Williams, you get the next full question. I'm going to start with Attorney Butcher on a rapid fire, and then we'll go from there. And please answer these in 10 seconds or less if you can. Do you support expanding the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court?
Yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Williams?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Definitely.
All right. Do you support term limits in Congress?
With campaign finance reform.
Term limits?
Absolutely, yes.
Representative?
No, I don't. That's what elections are for. Term limits have an undue burden on people of color and Democrats serving in office.
I support term limits. Nobody should sit in office solely to enrich themselves. We need term limits now.
All right, and last one for this round. Let's start with you, Attorney Moore. Should partisan gerrymandering be ended?
Of course.
Of course.
Can I expound on that?
Just quickly.
Partisan gerrymandering should be ended, right? But we do need to take notice that there are racial districts or there are communities that get cut out of these maps. For instance, in this race, and no offense to anybody here, we're in a minority majority district. A minority majority district is drawn for minority representation. If we don't recognize that minority communities need to amplify minority voices to lead them, we have a huge racial imbalance that,
All right.
I'm sorry.
I see where you're going there, but gerrymandering.
I think partisan gerrymandering is an affront to our democracy and restricts the right to vote, and it's a terrible thing.
Yes, and partisan gerrymandering, and also get big money out of politics by ending Citizens United.
Yes, and partisan gerrymandering.
All right. Okay, the next question goes to you, Dr. Williams. And it's funny how this works. You drew straws and you get this question. According to the Gun Violence Archive, there were 658 mass shootings in the United States in 2023, a number that includes the Allen Mall shooting in May that left 8 killed and 7 wounded. Responding to the violence in Allen, President Biden urged Congress to enact universal background checks, ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, and pass a law requiring safe storage of weapons. Here's the question. What, if any, gun control measures do you support, and how can we best prevent atrocities such as the Allen Mall shooting from occurring in the future?
Well, my career has been about ending the epidemic of gun violence. I've had to pronounce too many children dead on arrival due to gun violence. As a veteran, I've trained on these weapons and recognized that weapons of war do not belong in the hands of untrained civilians flooding our streets. As a survivor, I've lost family members to gun violence. This to me is personal and professional. But I've also seen what's possible at the federal level. I served as a health policy advisor and worked for Senator Chris Murphy, and we passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act last year, the most significant gun safety bill in a generation. That law will save thousands of lives, and there's much more we can do. That's why now is the time to elect the right type of Democrat for the times we are in. Here is where I differ from Representative Johnson. She has actually sided with Texas Republicans and the NRA 6 times to weaken our state's gun laws. One bill she voted for actually empowers our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, to sue local leaders who are trying to enact gun safety laws. A few months after the law was passed, this happened in Galveston. This is a law that was opposed by opposed by Everytown and Moms Demand, who called it extreme, reckless, and yet another example of how our elected lawmakers have failed us. I will never compromise on what we can do to save lives. And here's what we can do. Build upon the work I've already been doing as a trauma surgeon and someone who served in Washington, and pass universal background checks, raise the minimum age to purchase weapons to 21, and reinstate the assault weapons ban. Those 3 have broad support across all Americans, and those will save thousands of lives. And as your congressman, that's what I will fight for.
Okay, thank you. Now, Attorney, can you hold off a second since he called the representative out? I want her to respond to that, and then we'll get to you for your rebuttal.
Thank you. That's just not accurate. You know, one of the things I'm most proud of is that I have an F rating from the NRA. I mean, you have to be a strong gun sense, gun safety advocate to get an F rating with the NRA. The other thing, I'm really pleased with the fact that I was appointed to a gun violence and safety committee after the El Paso shootings. I have traveled all over the state. I've been to Odessa with the Odessa families and have cried with them. I've been to El Paso. I have been with the Uvalde families day in and day out. I authored a very important piece of legislation about domestic violence and guns to streamline our protective order system in the state of Texas. And so I've been on the front lines in the legislative fight on gun violence. I've also been recognized by Moms Demand in every town, in every single one of my elections, as one of the strongest gun sense, gun safety candidates and advocates that we have in our state legislature. And I'm very proud of the record that I have on guns, and I resent being so mischaracterized about it.
Can I respond?
Just quickly.
I've been on the front lines washing the blood of too many children off my shoes due to gun violence. This is not my opinion. The facts are clear. Representative Johnson voted not just once, but 6 times with the Texas Republicans and the NRA to weaken our gun laws. I've had enough. I've seen too much needless death and suffering to gun violence, and we cannot compromise on this issue. The leading cause of death for our children, record mass shootings, and Texas, our state, leads the nation in mass shootings. We need people who will go to Congress, fight for this, and those of us that understand what's happening on the front lines. I'll be the first trauma surgeon in Congress to talk about this. I've trained on these weapons. I've lost family members on these weapons, and I will not compromise on this issue as your congressman. The facts are clear. 6 times with the NRA and Texas Republicans to weaken our gun laws.
All right. Attorney.
Yeah, so I support universal background checks. I think it's a very simple thing we can do that did not, at a federal level, make it into the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. I also support an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons, although they don't account for all of our mass shootings, when they are involved, they result in much higher deaths, and that includes assault weapons as well as high-capacity magazines. We need to ban both. And we know it works because we used to have an assault weapons ban, and it expired at the end of 2004, and we saw mass shootings go up and deaths from gun violence go up. So we need to reinstate those bans. I also support federal red flag laws as well as safe storage laws. 3/4 of mass shootings involving children happen from guns in their homes, and we need to hold people accountable.
Attorney Moore.
Yeah, I think we all agree that we need stronger gun laws, red flag laws, safe storage laws. We need to expand gun legislation to ensure that we can prohibit the legal purchase of guns to folks that don't need to have them. But for me, when I think about gun violence and what we need to do moving forward, coalition building again is key. I'm the only person that has been to Chicago to organize a gang peace rally in which we challenged rival gangs to a ceasefire. Not only did they stop shooting each other, they actually marched together and we instituted a gun buyback. Now, there's a proliferation of illegal guns in our streets as well, in which people are losing their lives for that also. We can't just sit here and talk about illegal gun ownership. We need to talk about the proliferation of illegal guns in our communities as well. I'm the only person that has gone to the belly of the beast to use a holistic approach to ensure that our communities are safer. We need to implement that around the country. Not only do we need to work for stronger legislation, but we need to activate our community members and our community leaders to have a framework in which we push back against gun ownership and illegal gun ownership in our communities to ensure that our neighborhoods are safer.
That's your time. Question for you, Attorney Butcher. After Texas enacted one of the strictest abortion laws in the country, Dallas resident Kate Cox, a 31-year-old mother of 2, received a lethal fetal diagnosis, and her doctor informed her that she needed an abortion to protect her health and future fertility. However, Kate's doctors were not willing to perform the procedure due to the state's abortion law, leading Kate to leave the state of Texas to access health care. Here's the question. What specific policies and initiatives do you propose to improve and expand access to health care for all Americans, and how do you plan to address the challenges in the current healthcare system?
So healthcare more generally, the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't guarantee healthcare to all of its citizens. And I support Medicare for all. Medicare for all, I know, is controversial to some. I think a lot of its critics say it's too expensive. However, studies show that actually over a 10-year period, Medicare for all results in somewhere between a $2 trillion and $5 trillion savings for the United States. So step one, institute Medicare for all. Step two, we need to enshrine a right to bodily autonomy in this country. That starts with things like the Women Health Protection Act, which I'll point out doesn't just cover women. Abortions are for people who are not just female identifying. But we need to have a statutory right to an abortion. Your health care should not depend on what state you live in, and you should not be forced to flee your state to receive health care that is necessary for you and your personal bodily function. Third, I'd say, when we look at what's happening across the country in terms of trans health care, in terms of abortion care, we see an attack on basic human rights and a mischaracterization of why that attack is coming. They say that it's because they want to protect children or that they disagree morally with abortions. But when it comes to protecting life here, the Republicans also stand against that. Kate Cox had a life-threatening condition, needed health care. We've had other people who have filed, EMTALA claims. So the U.S. government has a thing called EMTALA. It allows for life-saving care in an emergency. When that was pushed forward by the Biden administration,
Attorney.
Ken Paxton pushed back.
That's your time. Thank you. You have
Simply
1
put,
minute.
healthcare should be a human right, and that should be a right that everybody has in this country. Not only is it a health issue, obviously, but it's an economic issue. If you wake up tomorrow and have a debilitating illness, that could push you into poverty. This is how the divide between the have and have-nots can be created, and it can be felt through generations. We need affordable health care. We need to be accessible. In regards to abortion and maternal health, obviously abortion needs to be codified. A woman's right to choose should be made law. But we also need to talk about how minorities have maternal care issues. That's one of the things that gets lost. Black maternal care is a huge problem. I read the other day that it's reaching pandemic levels. The fact that minority women can't go into hospitals and ensure that they're safe and having access to quality health care and not risk their lives, that's a huge problem in this country. And we need to fix that, especially in the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world.
Thank you. Representative, 1 minute.
Yes, I was there on the floor crying with my friend Donna Howard when this terrible abortion bill passed, and we were on there till 4 a.m. trying to stop it. I helped lay a legal record that hopefully will assist us in our courts as that bill moves through the process. I'm the vice chair of the Women's Health Caucus. I have a 100% voting record with Planned Parenthood. I've been awarded by the Texas Medical Association as a champion on healthcare. I'm the lead author of Medicaid expansion. Part of healthcare access is we have 6 million uninsured. We have to create insurance options for everyone, but we also have to make insurance work for everyone else. I have passed meaningful healthcare legislation in this legislature. I've passed important prior authorization reform that will allow people to get the care without all the burdens of insurance. I reformed the Texas Medical Board because we have a patient safety crisis with bad doctors operating on people in response to the doctor death case. I'm the only one in this place that has actually passed any healthcare legislation at all. And so I'm very proud of my record on healthcare and will champion this in Congress.
I chose a career in healthcare and chose to work at safety net hospitals to ensure that the underserved, those most in need, still have access to healthcare because we continue to deny folks access to healthcare. I've been on the front lines trying to reduce racial disparities in healthcare because it is insanity, the disparities in health between Black and brown people in this country. We need to do something about that. And I'm proud of the work I've done on the front lines, holding the hands of my patients, those that are rushing their medications and getting amputations when they need to do that, and working with Speaker Pelosi to pass monumental healthcare legislation. But the biggest threat right now for healthcare is abortion care. Abortion care is healthcare, and that is a right. Once again, Representative Johnson has sided with Texas Republicans to pass one of the most restrictive health abortion bills, which permanently funds crisis pregnancy centers with millions of dollars of our taxpayer money permanently. I will never compromise on providing abortion rights to women. I will defend that right as your congressman in Congress.
That's your time, Dr. Williams, but Representative.
I didn't realize we were at a Republican debate. I thought truth mattered on our side. You know, I mean, come on. I mean, I have been on the front lines of women's health. That's the reason I've been endorsed by the Texas Medical Association, the Texas Hospital Association. I've been the front lines of medicine, the American Academy of College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists. They just endorsed me 2 weeks ago. They had a chance to endorse you, Dr. Williams, but they know that you have no experience in policy. As one of the leading surgeons in the Texas Medical Association said to me, you know what, if I want to be operated on, I'm going to have Dr. Williams do that because you don't know anything about that, Julie. But if I want healthcare policy passed, I want you to do it because you have a lot of experience and it's too important in our state and it's too important in our country. So I resent that. I have unquestionably been a strong advocate for women, for women's health, for our rights to control our bodies, to be free to make our own healthcare decisions, and any insinuation to the contrary is just blatantly false.
Colonel, can I respond, please?
Can you do 20 seconds?
It'll be quick. The facts are clear. This is not a personal attack. She voted for the bill, sided with Republicans, permanently funded crisis pregnancy centers, the worst of the worst. These are anti-abortion centers that lie to women using our taxpayer money. I will not compromise on abortion. The stakes are too high right now. As a doctor and as your representative of Congress, we must stand by our values and not compromise on this issue.
All right, let's move on. President Biden, and this is for you, Attorney Moore. President Biden has directed our military to carry out 5 attacks against the Houthi and Iran-backed rebel group in Yemen that are launching attacks against commercial shipping in the Middle East. President Biden conceded that these military strikes have not deterred the group's attacks on commercial ships, but stated the attacks would continue. With rising tensions and violence in the Middle East, and with Congress having the sole power to declare war, what criteria would guide your decision to support or oppose U.S. military intervention in this or other conflicts abroad?
No, so great question. How I approach matters of foreign policy or even matters of domestic policy. I think humanitarianism first, using that framework should be the framework that we apply. And what that suggests for foreign matters or foreign policy matters, we need to look at diplomacy as the first thing to use towards fighting back against any type of conflict that's happening overseas or at home, right? So for me, I don't agree with President Biden. It seems as if he has a hair trigger response to issues that are going on in the Middle East. And, you know, with that type of approach, it creates a lot of danger, not only for our folks that are there, but also for, folks from Middle Eastern descent here. We need to try and figure out a way to not wade to rush into these wars and make sure that we can have a diplomatic framework that makes sense for our foreign policy initiatives. All we're doing is alienating Arab countries in the Middle East right now. And for posterity purposes, what does that mean for us moving forward? A lot of our allies have started to shirk back with our handling of the Israel-Hamas war. We need to have a very balanced approach. The thing with the United States is we're such a powerful country. Everybody knows that. But we need to start being a fair and balanced mediator. Right now, we're extremely biased. How do we intend to police the world if people look at us and say, well, United States is always going to choose one side and we're never going to have a balanced ear to listen to our problems? The United States, President Biden, and any other president needs to take a step back, realize what our foreign policy aims needs to be, which is being seen as a trusted power in the world and a trusted mediator. And the only way we can achieve that is to become a balanced and fair mediator and not be someone that's constantly choosing one side over the other.
All right, Representative, you have a minute for your rebuttal.
Sure. I support President Biden's attack on the Houthis. They are backed by Iran. There are some nations, Russia, Iran, North Korea, whose sole mission is to destroy our country, our way of life, and everything that we believe in. And we have to be strong and we have to be serious when dealing with them. Having said that, and so the Houthi rebels are attacking all of the commerce. They're destroying the shipping trade throughout the world, and it's unacceptable. If they want to protest Gaza, if they want to protest the Israeli occupation, there are other ways to do that besides that. And so I support President Biden. For one, they're completely funded by Iran, and I think Iran right now is one of the biggest threats to the U.S. democracy.
Dr. Williams.
It is important for the United States to continue to be the defender of democracy here and around the world. And we're seeing what happens when conflicts can spill over and threaten democracy everywhere. As a veteran, I took an oath to serve, and I recognize that there are times when we have to do what we can to support our democracy. We have to look at this, the next election, the stakes are high with a potential for a fascist becoming the Republican nominee for Congress or for the presidency. But that should not deter us as a country to stay true to our values as a democracy, protect that at home, but also ensure that we protect that around the world, because fascism and authoritarianism is on the rise. The presence of America on an international scale when it comes to military intervention is important, but we must remain true to our values and not lose our humanity as we do this to maintain our leadership as a free nation.
First thing I'd say is President Biden exceeded his authority when he ordered those strikes without asking Congress first. Article 1 is clear. That power lies in Congress. The second thing I'll say is, one, the Houthis exist independent of Iran. Does Iran help fund them? Sure. But they existed prior to that funding, and they are not simply an arm of Iran. I think that we need to approach issues with diplomacy first, military second. We have recently, and really, over the last few decades, approached things with a much too heavy of a hand militarily. We don't have a good record in the Middle East. How do we build trust if we continue to kind of fly off the handle and jump in? I think that's where we are in that conflict.
Thank you. Next question goes to you, Representative Johnson. Despite repeated predictions of a recession, the economy posted significant GDP growth in 2023. However, polls continue to show a disconnect between this economic progress and the sentiment of Americans toward the economy. What is your view on the economy, and how do you plan to effectively communicate this viewpoint to voters?
Well, the economy has strong indicators. The inflation numbers are going down. The GDP is up. Unemployment is going down. Wages are supposedly on the rise, and a number of other things. And if you are Jeff Bezos, the economy is doing great. But unfortunately, the economy isn't working for everyone. We have a generation of students that are under crushing student loan debt. We have $1.7 trillion of student loan debt in this country. We have a generation of people that cannot get affordable housing. We have families that have to choose between buying a home with their new baby and paying off their student loans, and homes that they can't afford because interest rates are at a 10-year high. We have medical debt because people don't have insurance. We have $88 billion of medical debt in this country. medical debt is the single largest number of collection debt out there. So when you have, if you're a family that is uninsured and has student loan debt and you can't afford a house, I don't think you're thinking the economy's working all that great for you. And I think there's a lot that we can be doing to try to do that. With student loans in particular, I would like to see us have interest-free loans backed by the government, reduce the interest. One of the problems is we have students are making their interest payments. You know, my niece went to school and she has all these student loans, and now the student loans are coming and the payments, the interest payment, just paying the interest, they don't get ahead. They can't get anywhere in 10 years before they even get to their principal. And so that is just not going to work for people. We have to address college affordability. We have to address the reasons why the economy isn't working for people. We have to create housing options. We have to create insurance. We have to make people not having all of this extra debt so that they can benefit from the economy.
Thank you. Dr. Williams.
So we need to work to create an economy that works for all of us, not just some of us. So we need to create a more equitable tax code where the wealthy and corporations pay their fair share. We need to lower taxes on the middle class. We need a $15 minimum wage. We need to pass the PRO Act so workers can organize in solidarity to ensure they have a safe workspace, benefits, and fair wages. We need to reduce healthcare costs. I see this as a doctor. Patients aren't be able to pay for their medications. One patient told me she was rationing her insulin, apologizing for that. And I had to amputate her leg because her infection was out of control, apologizing to me. The system has failed her. So we need people in Congress that know what's at stake and have seen the pain up close. And I've also had success in Congress serving for Speaker Pelosi to pass monumental legislation that serves all of us. I'm just asking for your trust for me to continue that work that I've already been doing.
Yeah, so to specifically address the disconnect, right? We talk all the time about specific indicators, numbers, traditional things that we look at to say, oh, the economy is doing well or not. The problem is that's not what the average American is feeling when they go to the grocery store to buy groceries, or they go to pay their mortgage, or they try to pay their student loan debt. That's not what they're feeling. What they're feeling is a crunch. The cost of groceries has exceeded, in terms of inflation, has gone up more than wages. Even though they're saying wage growth is up, it has not kept up with the cost of basic things like groceries. We need to provide relief to the average American. We need to provide tax credits to average people for basic necessities like groceries. We provide tax credits to businesses. We should provide tax credits to the average American. And cancel student loan debt.
You know, with the Biden administration touting these, economic numbers and people on the ground not actually feeling the health of a strong economy, I think it's really gaslighting, to be quite frank. I've knocked on doors in Buckner Terrace, Hamilton Park, Pleasant Grove, and these folks have not seen a robust economy. They've seen the crunch that Callie just mentioned. What we need is a livable wage. We don't need raising minimum wage. We need a livable wage that's commensurate with the rise of inflation. We're not giving folks the access to fight back the evils of inflation. We're just going to continue this perpetual cycle of people not being able to afford bare necessities that they need each and every day of their lives. That's one. Two, we need to give everybody that chooses not to enter into the workforce, that wants to start their own businesses, access to capital. The thing now that I see is the job market is so.
That's your minute. Sorry about that. It's time for our rapid fire questions again. Again, try to answer in 10 seconds if you can. We'll start with you, Representative Johnson, and then go down the line. Who in Congress do you most admire?
Who in Congress do I most admire? There are several people, but I'm going to say Nancy Pelosi, actually. She's the GOAT. She's the leader of women, and she has has taught us all. I've had the pleasure of meeting her. She's been to my home. I've worked with her for 20 years on issues, and I have deep respect for her.
Dr. Williams?
Well, I would just say that I most admire recently passed John Lewis. This was a civil rights icon that worked tirelessly to pass civil rights, working to expand access to the ballot, and he's an example of Black excellence that stood by his values no matter what.
Okay. Attorney Butcher?
Well, I would say the squad, but Representative Jayapal would be the one I would pick. I mean, I think she stands for values. She pushes progressive values, and I think she does not let the party line get in her way.
Cori Bush, she speaks her mind, she speaks her truth, she holds true to her values, and she doesn't allow corporate money or PAC money to affect her ability to legislate. So,
Okay.
Cori Bush.
So no Texan in that group, okay.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. What committees would you like to serve on? Dr. Williams, to start with you.
I'll name three to begin with: House Ways and Means, House Energy and Commerce, and Veterans Affairs.
Okay.
Just really quick, House Ways and Means and Energy and Commerce have jurisdiction over health, and it's all about jurisdiction. And Veterans Affairs, I admit my bias. I'm a veteran. I have a soft spot. We need to do right by our veterans.
Attorney?
Science and technology, ways and means, energy and commerce.
House Judiciary, Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce.
All right, Representative?
Appropriations.
All right.
The budget is everything. It's
Okay.
the lifeblood of, if there's no funding, nothing can happen. Judiciary and energy and commerce.
Okay. Dr. Williams, what is your most meaningful endorsement? And it could be from an individual or a PAC.
My most meaningful endorsement will be to win the primary with the voters supporting me on March 5th.
Young Democrats.
Freddie Haynes, he speaks truth to power, and that reflects my values.
I'm pleased I have 66 endorsements in this race by many elected officials, by many organizations, by Beto O'Rourke and Wendy Davis. But the endorsement I'm probably proudest of is that of the Texas Medical Association, because I've been on the front lines for healthcare. I've been recognized as a healthcare champion, and I'm very proud of that.
Okay. Do you agree with Jerry Jones's decision not to fire Coach Mike McCarthy? I'm just joking. No, unless you want to answer.
Go Cowboys.
I don't agree with Jerry Jones' decision, and I think Jerry Jones should step down, actually.
All right. That wasn't a real question, but, okay, so where we go? Dr. Williams. In this era of polarization and gridlock, how do Democrats push back against conservative policies that they view as extreme? And how do Democrats break through and consistently win in Texas?
Well, we need to hold this seat, right, and keep it blue. And we also need to send the right Democrat to Congress for the times we are in, and then help flip the House blue. Republicans are doing nothing about the epidemic of gun violence. They're rolling back abortion rights. They're talking about taking away health care for millions, and they're a threat to our democracy. So we need the right Democrat for the times to serve Texas 32, help flip the House, and then send people there, such as myself, who recognizes what it means to put service before self, something I learned as a veteran, as a doctor working with others to save patients, and as someone who served at the federal level and been inspired by what I've seen. There's a lot more bipartisan work happening there than you would think just by watching the cable news. I've walked into rooms to work on bills. If you didn't tell me ahead of time someone was a Republican or a Democrat, I wouldn't know. These are just good people coming together, trying to make the world a better place. And that is inspiring to me. So I want to be part of that and continue that legacy. So it is possible, but doing that, Democrats can stand firm on our values about keeping us safe from guns, providing health care, defending abortion rights, and defending our democracy, while also working with others who are committed to doing the same. We have to stand firm against Republicans who are bound and determined to destroy everything we hold dear. And that begins with us sending the right sort of leaders to Congress that recognize the importance of preserving our democracy, standing true to our democratic values. I've seen it. That has been my life as a veteran and as a doctor, and I will continue that as a representative for District 32.
Yeah, I'll say, the policies we've been talking about today, abortion, healthcare, gun violence, Americans as a whole are on our side, right? We have the support of the country, but we need to have the right representatives there to vote in the legislative body. So that means picking up seats beyond this seat, right? This is a blue seat, and we'd like to keep it blue, but we need to pick up more seats. We're not going to break through by having bare, one-person majorities in either the Senate or Congress. We need to pick up a large number of seats. We need to be able to push through. We need to end the filibuster. That's how we get through gridlock in D.C. And I really do think, a lot of Republicans that are currently in D.C., I think they need to understand that their jobs are on the line if they don't vote for these Democratic policies. So that's what I would say.
In order to break gridlock, we need to build a strong party here in Texas, right? So Representative Johnson, she flipped her seat in 2016, right? 2018, which was a huge feat. But I challenged her to stay. She should have stayed in that seat, right? Yeah, obviously, that's a self-serving statement. But if you flip a seat, that's a swing seat in a legislative body that's a majority, and you make that seat vulnerable, it could possibly become a supermajority. How are you upholding democratic values, and how are you upholding the strength of our party if you're using your own quest for career advancement to put our party in jeopardy? This is the truth. If you want to give the Republicans a supermajority, you can boo. It means you don't care about making sure that we have a strong Democratic Party here in Texas. We're talking about breaking through gridlock and having Democrats in office. Hey, you can move your hand like that, sir, but it's okay. I get it.
All right, that's your time, and Representative Johnson, so you take some time to respond to what Attorney
Respond and
just
answer.
said,
I'll
and
get it in a
then
minute.
answer the question after that.
Well, let me just say, what this is leadership. I have had a wonderful career in the Texas House. I flipped my seat red to blue. I answered the call. We didn't have a Democrat willing to run against Matt Rinaldi, one of the most terrible Republicans the state has ever done. And with the love of my beautiful wife, I moved my family from Preston Hollow to Farmers Branch to be a candidate and go flip a seat, and that is exactly what we did. And I am the only one on this stage that has ever won a general election, that has ever beat a Republican, that knows what it takes to hold a seat and win in the state of Texas. And what I have also done is been a mentor. I have developed leadership. There are some fabulous women running to replace me in the Texas House. I have visited with every single one of them. They all have my cell phones. They can all call me, and they have seeking advice, how to run, how do we hold the seat, and I am uplifting other people to run and be candidates for office. Just like what we're doing now, I still do this. I have a block walk with Avery Fisher on Sunday, Avery Bishop on Sunday. Other candidates running for the Texas House, empowering, working with people up and down the ballot. That is what we need, is candidates who are going to empower Democrats to win elections. I have seen up close and personal how important it is for us to win, and I am determined to do that not only in this race, but to help other Democrats up and down the ballot do it, which I have done every single cycle.
That's your time. Dr. Williams.
I was so enthralled by the back and forth here with the rebuttal and the question. Can you go back to that, please, Romer?
Oh, okay. So, that's right. It seems like a long time ago, right? In this era of polarization and gridlock, how do Democrats push back against conservative policies that they view as extreme? And how do Democrats win in Texas? How do you turn Texas blue?
Well, at the Air Force Academy, we were taught certain things about honor and integrity, and I've already answered that question, so I don't want to take any more time to answer it again. That would not be fair to the other candidates.
Okay.
Didn't I already answer that? Didn't I
Yes,
go
you
first?
did. We started with you, right? So we're on closing. We're on closing arguments now. I tell you what, since you went first you had the first question, you go first on closing arguments, so Attorney Butcher can take us home and have the last word. Go ahead.
Look, so we're in a crossroads here in this country. Our democracy is faltering. We have a party that's extremely bigoted, and we have current elected officials who can't hold true to democratic progressive values. I don't know if it's a fear of commitment or just an unwillingness to. But at this point, we need a hard reset. What we've been doing isn't working. It's not. We lost abortion, we lost affirmative action, we lost DEI. They're coming for the regulatory state. Everything that we hold true and dear to the Democratic Party and democratic values is under attack. We also fail at almost every turn to treat people that don't look like us with the humanity that we need. And we need our Democratic Party to lead on this push. Now, me coming as a civil rights attorney who has been doing this for 10 years of my life, actively chose to do this. The day I became an attorney, I lost my brother to suicide. That fueled me to be a civil rights leader and community champion. And I've been doing that for a decade. I told you about the coalition building I've been doing. Those coalitions have been more effective than what our elected officials have been doing. And we have metrics for that. Ask the thousands upon thousands of men and women who are free from racist drug laws in the 80s. They have me and the coalitions that we built to thank for that, not our elected officials. What's going on at our border, what's going on with abortion here in the state, that has served as the breeding ground and the planning ground for what we're doing nationally. And I submit to you, our state legislatures here provided that blueprint for Republicans to take to DC. They're using the blueprint in Texas to take our federal rights away in DC. What we need is someone that has the ability, the energy, the wherewithal, and the fierceness and tenacity to go to DC to look Republicans in the face, challenge them to do the right thing, and if possible, build coalitions to work across the aisle. I've done that consistently as a private citizen, and I seek to do that as your next U.S. Congressperson.
Thank you. Representative Johnson, 2 minutes.
You know, I think in this race, one of the clear distinctions, we all agree on so many issues, but one of the things that separates us is experience. I have won 3 elections. I've served 3 terms in the Texas House. I have authored or co-authored over 400 pieces of legislation. Over 100 of those have passed into law. Meaningful pieces of legislation. And I've done that as a lesbian Democrat in a Republican-controlled House, a Republican-controlled Senate with a Republican governor. I know how to do it. I've also become a master of the rules. Defense. That's what Democrats have to do in Texas often, is defense. And
Ma'am, please. 1 second.
anyway, so, you know, we've passed a lot of legislation. Okay.
Hold it, Representative. Let the.
And that is one of the things that we all fight for. But, you know, the thing is that none of these policies are going to happen unless we start winning elections as Democrats. And I know how to do that. I've done that. I've put my time, my money, and my effort where it matters, and that is flipping seats, that is advancing our agenda and standing up to power. But at the end of the day, as Democrats, we have to do two things. We have to give voice to the values that we all share, and I have plenty of speeches on the House floor where I have done that, and to screaming from the mountaintop that this is wrong and it should not be allowed to stand. But we also have to be effective, and we have to be able to get stuff done, and we have to work, and we have to work with Republicans. We have to be bipartisan at times, and we have to be able to move the needle to make it just a little bit better when we can for everybody that we can. I'm the only one in this room in this race that has that experience and that has done that. I challenge you. I've learned so much in the Texas House about legislating, about how to draft legislation, about how to work with stakeholders, how to work with constituents, how to be effective, and how to get the job done, which is why I have over 66 endorsements in this race. Over 40 elected officials who've worked with me in the trenches, who are from city council to county to state to federal, all recognize the work that I've done and what a caliber member I would be in the United States Congress. I'm asking for your vote. Please join our campaign. Let's make history.
Dr. Williams. You have 2 minutes.
Look, I'm going to stand up because I'm a surgeon and I get things done standing up, okay? Our country is in a crisis, Congress is broken, and now is a time for a new kind of leader. A leader who embodies service before self, who's had success on the front lines here in Dallas and in Washington, and a leader who represents the diversity that we celebrate in District 32. Now, I'm not a politician. I'm just someone who's seen too much needless death and suffering and has had enough. I'm a proud graduate of the Air Force Academy. I'm a trauma surgeon, and I've also served as a health policy advisor for Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I'm also a husband and father, and I call East Dallas home. This community means something to me. I'll be proud to serve you in Congress. Some of you may know me after the police shooting in 2016. 14 of our police officers shot, 7 were brought to the hospital where I was on call that night at Parkland. 3 officers died on my watch. That night nearly broke me. I think about that every day. I carried a lot of shame and guilt for a long time. But I decided I want to be part of the healing of Dallas. And that is why Mayor Rawlings appointed me to the chair of the Police Review Board. I served as Judge Jenkins' Special Advisor for Health Equity. But I've also seen what's possible in Congress because I've been there and I'm inspired. But you need the right leaders there. And there's more work for us to do as Democrats. We have an attack on abortion rights, an epidemic of gun violence, healthcare that's unaffordable, and they're trying to destroy our democracy. And if you believe in the greatness of America like I do, you would not try to destroy our democracy, you would work to preserve it. And that's what I want to do. So I'm asking you to trust me. I'm a doctor. I'm also a veteran. I'm a lifelong public servant. And together we can go out and build the world I envision, where we treat everyone with respect and dignity, but we need to do that together. So join me, Dr. Brian Williams, and we will go create that world together. I promise you.
All right. So I didn't plan to become a politician. That was not part of my life plan. But, you know, somewhere around 2017, we start seeing bathroom bills pop up all over the country. We start seeing attacks on the trans community, on my community. And it starts becoming obvious to me that we need people who can to stand up. I started getting involved in community advocacy. And I spent, you know, the last 4 years of my life dedicated to serving the LGBTQ plus community here in Dallas and across the state. And, you know, I felt that I had to get in this race because my life is on the line here. My right to exist in this state is on the line here. My family's ability to be safe is on the line here. I have threats given to me during this campaign around if I go near schools, if I'm around children, what people will do to me just because I am trans. I know what it's like to be the outsider in a room. I know what it's like. And it is crucial that we have voices that aren't represented in Congress there now. This is a national debate. It is not a Texas debate. It is not a Dallas debate. This is something we need federal intervention to solve. I know how to fight because I'm fighting for my life, and I know how to fight for your life. One of the beautiful things about the LGBTQ plus community is how intersectional it is. And being involved in that community, I have met people from all walks of life, and I have to understand everything about their oppression, not just their LGBT status. So I will give you everything I have. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank the candidates for their time tonight. Give them a round of applause, please. So they're going to be around for a while, but now do you have any last minute remarks from the organizers? Anything? Any announcements from?
Yes, I did have something else I wanted to say. Thanks for giving me another chance up here. Thank you all for coming tonight. You were just really inspiring. Thank you. I didn't get to acknowledge two people that I want to make sure I say thank you to. Thank you to Curtis Dorian, Councilman Curtis Dorian, for coming tonight. Appreciate you. And thank you to Constable Henry Curry for coming tonight and for taking care of us, keeping us in good shape here tonight. I'm being told somebody else. I did say, and thank you to Mihaela again, I'll say that. The other thing I want to say is, if you enjoyed this evening, if you found value in this, I want to let you know that if you're in Senate District 16, we are going to be having another debate on Saturday, the 27th, at Richland College.
I just want to say, I'm going to bring my popcorn and come and watch.
So we'll have Senate District 16, which is the incumbent Nathan Johnson, Senator Nathan Johnson, and his challenger, Representative Victoria Niabi. My mind just went blank when I saw somebody raise a sign back there. Do come for that if you can. Also, that same afternoon, we are going to be having the Congressional District 24, which is currently represented by Beth Van Dyne. Boo. Sorry, it's true. But we have two really good candidates that we'd like for you to come and check out on that one too. So I'm sorry, those two candidates are Sam Epler and Francine Lee. They're running for that primary. So thank you again for tonight. Thank you for your time, and please stay around, get to talk with the candidates, and good night.